The last notes of crystal glasses clinking for the new public relations director hadn't even faded when I started wheezing loud, harsh, like an old kettle on its last legs. That's me, Ellis Quinn. I restore antique books for a living, which means I'm way more comfortable with paper dust and silence than with parties like this. Honestly, I stuck out in that room filled with designer suits and fake smiles. My sister, Scarlett, stood front and center on the little VIP podium, her teeth blindingly white under the warm lights. She leaned into the mic, PR smile locked in, eyes cold, and went for her usual dramatic entrance. Ellis? Don't make a scene. It's just mushroom soup. There's no crab. Or are you trying to ruin my promotion party? The room chuckled, sort of. Scarlett always thought her sharp little jokes won people over. She soaked up the attention, like always. But she didn't notice the man sitting across from me. Victor Langford, group chairman, the guy who'd just approved her promotion, stared at my soup bowl with real panic. His daughter has the same shellfish allergy I do. He knows exactly what anaphylaxis looks like. Before I knew what was happening, Victor was already moving. He pulled an EpiPen from his $7,000 suit and dashed over, moving faster than any 59-year-old has a right to. Let's back up. I should explain how I ended up nearly dying at my sister's party. This was supposed to be a small dinner to celebrate Scarlett's new title at Etoile, a 3-Michelin-star restaurant where getting a table takes 3 months and a platinum card. The room glowed with dim, golden light, everything sparkling like a photo shoot for a luxury magazine. Crystal chandeliers, dark wood walls, the whole place heavy with old money and fresh ambition. I'm 27, but I've already built a reputation as an antique book conservator. In some academic circles, they call me the surgeon for history, cold, logical, obsessed with the chemistry of preservation. My job's about saving centuries-old manuscripts, handling them like I'm defusing bombs. I've rescued books that survived wars, floods, fires. It takes patience, silence, and a real respect for the fragility of beautiful things. Scarlett's 29, just made PR director at Thorn Global, one of the country's biggest multinationals. She's all glamour, designer clothes, flawless hair, a smile she can flick on or off whenever she wants. I'm quiet and careful. She's loud and reckless. I save things. She breaks them. Our parents, Reginald and Arabella, are 60, vain, and love broadcasting Scarlett's career like it's their own. They sat beaming at her that night, soaking in her success. My work? They brush it off as dusty, depressing, something they'll never understand. To them, I'm the letdown, the daughter who picked books over boardrooms. The drama that ended with me gasping for air started way before dinner. Scarlett tried to corner Victor in the lobby to show off some media report she'd put together about his company's latest acquisition. She wanted his attention, his praise. But Victor spotted me waiting by the coat check. His face lit up, real interest, not just polite. He walked right past Scarlett and spent 20 minutes talking with me about preserving ancient paper. We went deep, pH balances, alkalization, the difference between European and Asian paper fibers. He told me about a batch of 18th century letters his company just bought and asked if I'd come consult. And the whole time, I watched Scarlett. Her jaw clenched. Her hands curled into fists. I saw the fury building behind her eyes. This night was supposed to be hers. Her big moment. So, there I was, the boring little sister, the one with the safe, predictable job, suddenly stealing the spotlight from the most important person in the room. Scarlett couldn't stand it. Her jealousy was sharp and reckless. She wanted to embarrass me, to show everyone that I was weak, or worse, some attention seeker faking an allergy just to make everything about me. She figured a splash of crab essence wouldn't hurt anyone. Maybe I'd itch a little, break out in hives, but nothing serious. She wanted me humiliated in front of Victor, our parents, everyone who actually mattered. So, she set her trap. I didn't catch her in the act, but later I pieced it together from what people told me. About half an hour before the soup course, Scarlett slipped away from the table. She found Chef Marcel in the kitchen, the guy who built his reputation on reinventing French classics. She flashed that dazzling PR smile at him. Chef Marcel, I have a special request, she said. Everyone keeps raving about your crab fat oil, the one that makes your bouillabaisse so legendary. I've heard it's incredible. He lit up, of course. His crab fat oil, this stuff was famous among food critics. He made it by slowly rendering blue crab roe and fat with aromatics until it turned into this rich, amber gold oil. Pure flavor. Scarlett leaned in. Since today's such a big day for me, could you add just a touch of that crab oil to the truffle mushroom soup? I think it'd be extraordinary. Something new. Something unexpected. Crab and truffle didn't really go together, but Chef Marcel liked to experiment, especially for clients who seemed genuinely excited about his food. He thought about it for a second, the umami from the crab fat, the earthiness of truffle, the sweetness of mushrooms. Actually, it might work. For you, Miss Cole, on your special night, he said with a little bow, I'll make one bowl with the crab oil as an amuse-bouche before the main soup. Scarlett thanked him, sweet as honey. You're an artist. What Chef Marcel didn't know, what he couldn't have known, was that Scarlett had a plan. He had no idea she had a sister with a life-threatening shellfish allergy. He had no clue that the bowl he was making would turn into a weapon. When the soup came out, it looked beautiful. Andy, the young waiter, set the bowls in front of us. Mine caught the candlelight, those reddish-brown oil swirls shining like melted copper. Scarlett leaned over, her voice all soft and sisterly. I asked Chef Marcel to add a little smoked chili oil and pine mushroom extract to yours, she said. I know rich food can be a lot for you, so I thought this would make it easier. The chili gives it a gentle warmth. I should have known better. I'm careful by nature, it's what makes me good at my job. When you're handling objects that are 400 years old, you learn to question everything, test everything, double-check every step. But not this time. My sister's enthusiasm, the golden lighting, the luxurious room, it all threw me off. The soup was a masterpiece of deception. The truffle mushroom scent was so earthy and strong, it filled my nose and covered up anything else. The crab fat oil looked exactly like truffle oil. The mushroom aroma hid the faint fishiness I might have noticed. So, I didn't suspect a thing. I picked up my spoon and took a bite. The flavor was stunning, rich and deep and complicated. For maybe 5 seconds, even though Scarlett had done something nice for me. Then my throat started closing. The reaction slammed into me fast and brutal. My throat tightened, like someone was squeezing it shut with both hands. My lips tingled, then burned, then ballooned up. My tongue swelled until it filled my mouth, choking off my breath. Angry red hives flared up across my skin, spreading over my arms and chest in wild streaks. I tried to stand, but my legs gave out. The whole room tilted. I crashed to the carpet, hard enough to knock the breath from my body, what little was left. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't talk. Couldn't do anything but claw at my throat and make these awful, rasping noises that barely sounded human. And through it all, I could hear my sister laughing. Not nervous. Just laughing. Not an oh no, what have I done kind of laugh. A triumphant one. Like, see? See? Scarlett's voice carried across the VIP room. She was eating mushrooms and pretending to be allergic to crab. This year's Oscar for Best Actress goes to Ellis Quinn. Some of the guests gave this shaky, uncertain laugh. Others looked uncomfortable, not sure if this was just a weird family joke or something darker. Come on, Ellis. Scarlett kept going, coming closer as I twisted on the floor. You can drop the act now. You've got everyone's attention. Isn't that what you wanted? To make my night all about you? I tried to look at her. Tried to make her see this wasn't an act. I was dying. My vision started to close in. Black spots flickered at the edges. This is it, I thought. My sister's going to kill me at a dinner party, and everyone's just watching, thinking it's a joke. But then Victor Langford was there. Before I even hit the floor fully, he was already kneeling beside me, EpiPen in hand. Move, he shouted, cutting through the laughter. Someone calls an ambulance. Now. Hold still, he told me, his voice somehow steady in all that chaos. You're going to be okay. I've got you. He yanked the cap off the EpiPen and jabbed it into my thigh, right through my dress. The needle punched through fabric and skin, and I felt the epinephrine flood my body, like ice water in my veins. It didn't fix everything at once, but the pressure on my throat eased a bit. Enough for me to suck in a sharp, whistling breath. Ambulance! Victor yelled again, looking around at all the stunned faces. Call emergency services right now. Somebody gets oxygen if you have it. The restaurant manager was already on his phone, fumbling through the address for the emergency dispatcher. A waiter dashed for the first aid kit behind the bar. Victor looked down at me, his face set and serious. Stay with me, he said. The ambulance is coming. You're going to make it. The room spun into chaos, people panicking, shouting, running. In the middle of it all, I caught Scarlett's face. Her smugness drained away. Her smile faded. She looked at Victor kneeling beside me, the EpiPen, my lips swelling up like balloons. She was starting to realize her prank had gone way too far. I didn't think, she stammered, backing up a step. My mother rushed over, face white. What happened? What's wrong with her? She's having anaphylactic shock, Victor snapped. Someone put shellfish in her food, this isn't a joke. Without this epinephrine, she'd be dead in minutes. My father looked down at the soup bowl, then at Scarlett. You could see the moment it clicked for him. Scarlett, he said quietly. What did you do? Nothing, Scarlett said, way too fast. I just asked for mushroom soup. There wasn't supposed to be any crab in it, but before she could finish, Andy the waiter showed up at her elbow. Miss Scarlett, he said, do you want me to clear the table? You told me to have everything ready for cleanup. Not now, Scarlett snapped. That's when the adrenaline really kicked in. The epinephrine forced my heart to pound, my airways to open, my body to claw its way back. With that came this cold, sharp clarity. I reached out and grabbed Victor's wrist, gripping his fancy watch with everything I had left. He looked down, surprised. I still couldn't talk, my throat was too tight, but I could manage a signal. I pointed at the soup bowl. Then I made a fist, holding it up. Keep it. Hold on to it. Victor got it right away. He wasn't a cop or a lawyer, but he was a billionaire who built his empire on reading people and acting fast. No one touches that soup, he bellowed, his voice booming across the room. Security, seal the table. This is a crime scene. The security guards, who'd been standing around not knowing what to do, suddenly jumped into action. They circled the table, blocking anyone from getting closer. Thorne, Scarlett said, forcing a shaky laugh. Isn't that a bit dramatic? It's just a misunderstanding. Nothing leaves this room. Victor cut her off, his voice like a slab of ice. Don't touch a thing, the dishes, the soup, even the napkins. Everything stays put until the authorities get here. My mom clamped her fingers around Scarlett's arm. Tell me you didn't do this on purpose, she hissed, desperate. Tell me it was an accident. Scarlett tried to speak, but nothing came out. She'd gone pale as paper. I was sprawled on the floor, still clutching Victor's wrist. Pain and fear squeezed my chest, but somewhere under all that, a grim satisfaction bubbled up. I'd used what little strength I had left to keep the one thing that mattered, the soup. The proof of what my sister had done. That was my tiny victory before the darkness started closing in again. The last thing I remember before the paramedics got there was Victor leaning over me, his hand heavy and steady on my shoulder. You're a fighter. Good, he said. You're going to need that. The paramedics set up right there in the VIP room, working fast while Victor barked orders like he ran the place. They hit me with another shot of epinephrine, strapped an oxygen mask over my face, checked my vitals. My blood pressure was tanking, oxygen levels way too low. One of them glanced at the monitor and said, "We need to move now. She needs to be in the ER, under observation. Anaphylaxis can rebound later, she could crash again." But before they rolled me out, Victor turned to Scarlett. His face was stone. You said this was normal mushroom soup? His voice was so quiet it was deadly. Scarlett's hands shook. She tried to hide it, lacing her fingers together. Yes, she said, but her voice nearly broke. Of course it was normal mushrooms. She always overreacts. She's probably just panicking. A panic attack doesn't close your airway, Victor shot back. A panic attack doesn't need an EpiPen. Stop lying. That's when Chef Marcel burst in, looking rattled. Andy must have told him about the emergency with the soup and the allergy. The news hit him hard. "Miss Scarlett," he said, face red and confused. "The waiter just told me what happened." "But I don't get it. You asked for the crab fat oil. You wanted it in the truffle soup. You said it was your special request." The whole room went silent, everyone staring at Scarlett. Chef Marcel kept going, not realizing he was making things worse for her. "You told me you liked it. You said it would be new and unexpected. I thought you wanted to try it." Then Andy, the young waiter from our table, stepped up. "Miss Scarlett told me to put that specific bowl in front of Miss Saylor," he said quietly. "I remember because she made really clear eye contact and pointed right at her seat." Silence. Complete, suffocating silence. I lay on the stretcher, oxygen mask pressed to my face, and watched the lies in my family unravel in real time. My dad looked like he'd aged 10 years in a minute. Mom covered her mouth, staring at Scarlett like she was a stranger. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a misunderstanding or just carelessness. This was a setup. Cold, planned, deliberate. "Scarlett," my father said, voice hollow. "Tell me they're wrong. Tell me you didn't do this on purpose." Scarlett's eyes darted around the room, desperate for an exit. "I just thought, she always makes such a fuss about her allergy. I thought if she had a tiny bit, she'd see she'd been exaggerating. I figured maybe some hives, that's all. I never wanted it to get this serious." "You never meant to almost kill your sister?" Victor, voice could cut glass. "That's your excuse? It was supposed to be harmless?" Scarlett's voice shot up, shaky and shrill. "She's always so dramatic. I just wanted her to stop hogging the spotlight. This is my night, my promotion, and she had to make it about her and her stupid allergy." "Shut up," my father said, and I'd never heard him talk to Scarlett like that. She was always the golden child, the one who couldn't do any wrong. His voice stunned everyone. "We need to go now," one of the paramedics insisted. "Her condition's critical. She needed a hospital." They wheeled me toward the exit. As I went by my family, I met each of their eyes. My mother was crying, her mascara streaking down her cheeks. My dad seemed like he'd aged a decade in 10 minutes. And Sloane looked terrified. Good. I wanted her to be afraid. The worst kind of cruelty doesn't show up as bruises or shouting. It hides behind a smile, wrapped up in so-called concern. When someone toys with your safety, laughs it off, and calls it a joke, trust me, they're not joking. They're showing you exactly who they are. For 27 years, I played the role of the understanding younger sister. Quiet, easy, invisible. I kept the peace. I swallowed every slight, let myself get passed over because it was easier than making a scene. But as those ambulance doors slammed shut and the siren started up, something snapped inside me. Sloane wasn't just jealous, she was ready to risk my life. For what? To stroke her ego? To punish me for daring to stand out, for catching the attention of someone she wanted? My parents always took her side. They brushed off her cruelty, told me I was too sensitive. Now they couldn't pretend anymore. Everything was out in the open, ugly and undeniable. I felt a coldness settle inside me, and it wasn't from the anaphylaxis this time. It was the chill that comes when you finally stop lying to yourself about the people you love. The paramedic checked my oxygen mask. "How are you feeling?" she asked, soft and careful. I couldn't answer, my throat was still raw, my voice barely a whisper. I just lifted my hand, tried to signal I was okay. I wasn't, though. Not even close. But my head felt clear for the first time in years. I was done being the quiet sister, the one who took what she was given and never fought back. I'd deal with this the way I deal with a moldy book, cut out every infected page until only clean paper remained. Scarlett tried to destroy me, but really, all she did was set me free. Now she'd see what happens when you push someone who's spent their whole life being careful and controlled. You don't get fireworks. You get precision. The real kind of vengeance doesn't shout, it slices. Chaos spilled outside as the ambulance doors opened. Victor Langford was already there by the back of the ambulance, phone in hand, finger poised to dial. His attorney's number, no doubt, someone with a direct line to the DA. "I'm calling the police," he said. Scarlett burst out the door behind us, pushing past security, desperate to spin the story. Her heels hammered against the sidewalk. This is attempted murder, or, at the very least, aggravated assault. Ms. Cole will be arrested tonight. Scarlett went white. The color drained right out of her. No, she whispered. No, please, Mr. Thorne. It was a mistake. I didn't mean, you admitted to contaminating your sister's food with something you knew could kill her, Victor cut in, ice in his voice. You did this at a company event, with company resources, while representing Thorne Global as our new PR director. If I call the police now, you'll be in cuffs before midnight. Your career ends tonight. And since this was clearly premeditated, you're looking at real prison time. My mother grabbed Scarlett's arm, sobbing. Oh, my sweet girl, what have you done? My father just stood there, frozen, running the numbers in his head, what it would mean to have a daughter arrested for attempted murder in front of a room full of wealthy strangers. The scandal would be huge. No way around it. But I noticed something else. Victor, grip tightening on his phone. Other dinner guests standing nearby, phones out, probably already blasting messages to friends. The restaurant manager, wringing his hands, dread all over his face. And right then I saw my opening. Even with my throat burning and my voice a mess, I dragged the oxygen mask down and raised my hand. Ma'am, leave it on, the paramedic said, trying to fit the mask back on my face. You need the oxygen. I pushed her hand away, tired, but stubborn. Wait, I croaked. The words scraped my throat raw. Victor turned, surprised. Everyone fell silent, waiting for me to speak. I stared at Victor. My body was wrecked, but my mind was clear. Don't call the police. Yet, getting the words out felt like dragging stones. The paramedic kept glancing at my monitors, nervous. Arresting the PR director will tank Thorne Global X's stock, I forced out. I don't want to wreck your assets. I took another shaky breath. My lawyer. We'll handle it. Tomorrow. The relief on my family's faces was almost ridiculous. My mother sobbed, "Oh, Ellis. Thank you. Thank you. You're such a good girl. Such a good sister." My father's shoulders slumped. We'll work this out as a family. We'll sit down tomorrow, talk it through. Scarlett just looked at me, part relief, part disgust. I could read her like a book. She thought I was weak. She figured I was too scared to press charges, that I'd put family first again. Ellis, she said, stepping closer, voice all honey and manipulation. I know you're upset, and you should be. But we're sisters. Family. We can get through this. Maybe therapy, family counseling. I raised a hand, cutting her off. My voice barely more than a whisper, but steady. My lawyer will contact you with the terms. Terms? Scarlett blinked, off balance. For the settlement, I said, trying not to cough. You're going to pay. For what you did. Every penny. Her face twisted. You're going to sue me? Your own sister? Would you rather prison? I asked. 8 years? State facility? Or a civil settlement? Your call. Victor gave me a look I hadn't seen before, something like respect. Your lawyer should call my office too, he said. I'll make sure Chef Marcel and Andy give full statements. Thorne Global will cooperate with any legal proceedings. Thank you, I whispered. Don't thank me, Victor said. You saved yourself tonight. Hanging onto that evidence, most people would have panicked. I work with fragile things, I said. Then I let the paramedic put the mask back on. We need to move, the paramedic said, signaling the driver. She needs medical supervision. The ambulance doors started to close. I caught one last glimpse of my family standing there on the curb. They thought I'd shown mercy. They thought I'd put family before justice, like always. They still saw the same quiet, accommodating Ellis. They were wrong. I needed time. Time to make the case airtight. Time for them to relax, drop their guard. Time to gather every last shred of evidence. Scarlett thought talking to my lawyer meant a little negotiation, maybe writing a check, maybe an apology. She had no idea what was coming. I spent 3 days in the hospital. The anaphylaxis had done more damage than anyone guessed. My vocal cords were shot hoarse, barely able to speak. Weeks of speech therapy ahead. The epinephrine hammered my heart, so they kept me on monitors. Psychologically, I was a wreck. Nightmares, panic attacks at the smell of mushrooms, terrified every time I ate. But I didn't let myself wallow. I didn't waste time. On the second day, still hooked up to lines and wires, I had my lawyer, Mr. Lewis, come in. Mid-40s, sharp as hell, civil litigator. I'd hired him a few years back for a contract mess. He'd impressed me then. Tell me everything, he said, pulling out his tablet. So I did. Every detail. The conversation with Victor that set Scarlett off. The way she went to talk to the chef. The soup. The confession, right there with witnesses. This is airtight, Mr. Lewis said, eyes gleaming. She confessed in front of half a dozen people, including the CEO. And we've got the chef's statement about her telling him to add crab oil. We've got the server's statement saying she aimed that bowl right at you. There's literal proof, the soup itself. And Victor Langford saw the whole thing, your medical emergency, and how fast he jumped in. I want affidavits from Chef Marcel and Andy, I said. My voice was wrecked, barely more than a whisper. In writing. Notarized. I don't want my family or anyone else getting to them first. Consider it done, Mr. Lewis said. I'll have them within 48 hours. And I want a full medical report. Every injury, the throat damage, cardiac strain, psychological trauma. Everything. Already ordered. The hospital's cooperating. I looked him dead in the eye. I want her destroyed, Mr. Lewis. Not just hurt. Not embarrassed. Destroyed. I want her to lose everything, her career, her money, her reputation. I want my parents to see exactly what their golden child is capable of. And I want it all done legally. Clean, complete. Mr. Lewis smiled, if you can call it that. It was the kind of smile you see on a predator just before it pounces. How much are we asking for? $900,000, I said, no hesitation. That's enough to wreck her financially, but not so high it looks unreasonable to a mediator. It covers my medical bills, lost income, pain and suffering, therapy. And it's just low enough she'll think she's getting off light. You've thought this through. I've had nothing but time to think, I said. And one more thing. I want this done in mediation, not court. Court drags on forever. I want it over 3 weeks from tonight. Can you make that happen? For $900,000 and a case this clear? The defense will beg for mediation. They'll be scared stiff of what a jury would do. Good. Because my silence isn't forgiveness. It's strategy. Mr. Lewis stood, closed his tablet. Your sister tried to kill you, Ms. Cole. She deserves everything coming to her. She tried to diminish me, I said, my voice low. She wanted to make me small. Weak. Prove I was nothing. That's worse than trying to kill me. She wanted me to survive it, to live with the humiliation. I leaned back against the hospital pillows, suddenly tired. But here's the thing, I went on. When you spend your life working with things that are fragile but precious, you learn how to protect them, repair them, and you learn how to remove anything that threatens them completely, permanently, without mercy. My lawyer left with his orders. For the next 2 weeks, while I recovered at home, he worked like a man possessed. He got sworn affidavits from Chef Marcel and Andy, gathered medical records and expert opinions. He built a case file that was damning from top to bottom. And my family? They thought I was healing. Processing the trauma. Deciding whether to forgive, whether to forget. My mother sent flowers, expensive ones, which I donated straight to the hospital. My father called twice, leaving long, rambling voicemails about not letting this tear us apart. Sloan sent a text, "Can we talk?" I think there's been a misunderstanding. I didn't answer any of them. My silence wasn't forgiveness. It was the calm before the storm. The moment you hold your breath and aim. You only get one shot. When Mr. Lewis called on day 19 to say mediation was set for day 21, exactly 3 weeks after the poisoning, I smiled for the first time since it happened. Perfect, I whispered into the phone. My voice was still hoarse, but stronger every day. Let's end this. It took 3 weeks for the swelling to go down enough that I could speak without pain. 3 weeks for my body to settle, so I could sit up for more than an hour without my heart hammering in my chest. That's how long it took Mr. Lewis to pull together an airtight case, the kind even the most expensive defense lawyer would tell their client to settle. That's how long my family waited before trying to sweep attempted murder under the rug, like it was just another wine stain on the carpet. The mediation room smelled like lemon polish and desperation. One of those corporate spaces pretending to be neutral, beige walls, a long oak table, leather chairs that squeaked every time you shifted. The kind of place where million-dollar deals die quietly, where careers end with a signature, not a scene. I got there early with Mr. Lewis, my hands still shaking a little from the medication I'd be taking for the next 6 months. The doctors said the tremors would fade. I wasn't sure I wanted them to. They reminded me of what I'd almost lost. Scarlett swept in 12 minutes late, naturally. Of course she did. She always had to make an entrance, keep everyone waiting just long enough to remind us she was in control. She wore this dove-gray dress, probably worth more than my rent for the month. Her hair was pulled back into a soft chignon, the kind that screams, "Look at me, I'm the picture of innocence." Her makeup? Perfect. Just enough to look composed, not enough to seem cold. But it was her face that made my stomach twist, a mask of regret she'd practiced 1,000 times. Her eyes a little too wide. Lips pressed tight like she was barely holding herself together. I knew that face. She wore it whenever she wanted something, whenever she needed you to believe her, right before she lied so well, she might even fool herself. Mom and Dad stood on either side of her like bodyguards. Dad's jaw was set, stubborn, like he'd already decided how this would play out. Mom kept glancing at me, her eyes holding something new, fear, and maybe a kind of desperate pleading. They looked at me the way people look at a ticking bomb. "Ellis." Mom's voice went soft, soothing, like when I was a kid and she'd bandage my scraped knees. "Honey, we're so glad you're feeling better." I didn't answer. Mr. Lewis had coached me, only speak if you have to. Let the evidence speak for itself. Don't let them pull you into their drama. So, I folded my hands on the table, felt the cool wood, and waited. Scarlett leaned forward. Right on cue, her eyes got watery. "Ellis, Her voice broke perfectly, a little crack in her porcelain act. "I need you to know how sorry I am. I swear, I only thought you'd get a rash or something. Maybe a scratchy throat. It was just supposed to be a joke, you know? To get you to loosen up, stop being so serious all the time." She reached across the table, like she wanted to take my hand. I pulled mine away. "I didn't know. I really didn't." She kept going. Now there were actual tears, and, honestly, you had to admire the performance. "I didn't know you'd almost die. If I'd known, I never would have stopped." The word came out harsher than I meant, sharp enough to make everyone flinch. My mom jumped in, trying to patch things up. "Ellis, please. Your sister made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but she didn't mean for it to go this far. She didn't think it'd get this bad. Can't you just let it go? Let it go." As if Scarlett hadn't sat there, wine glass in hand, and watched me seize on the restaurant floor. As if slipping crab fat oil into my soup was some harmless experiment. As if I didn't think it'd be this bad, made poisoning me any better. Dad cleared his throat, his voice going all heavy and paternal, like he used to when I was little and supposed to listen. "Ellis, I know you're angry. You have every right. But at the end of the day, we're your family, aren't we? Family forgives. Family moves forward." Something snapped inside me, but not the way they wanted. I felt it, clean and sudden, a final rope breaking. The old sense of duty, the guilt, that deep-down wish that maybe one day they'd pick me first. All of it dropped away. When I spoke, my voice shook, not from fear, but from rage, from grief, from this wild, clear freedom, like I'd just escaped a burning house and could finally breathe. "No," Scarlett's mask slipped. I said it again, louder. "No. I don't want a family like this." I looked at each of them, Scarlett in her expensive dress playing the victim, Mom with her desperate eyes, Dad with all his authority. "I'm not letting it go." The silence was so heavy, I could hear the wall clock ticking. That's when Mr. Lewis opened his briefcase. The snap of the lock sounded like a gavel. "Miss Cole," he said, cold and formal, nothing soft or sisterly left. "You're a PR director. You make a living reading optics, spinning stories, knowing exactly how things will look. You know the difference between a prank and attempted manslaughter." He pushed a document across the table. Scarlett went pale. I didn't. We have Chef Marcel's testimony." He says you personally asked for crab fat oil in your sister's soup. Mr. Lewis's voice stayed steady, never rising, never shaking. Andy, the server, confirms you made sure the soup went to your sister's place at the table. The toxicology report didn't leave any room for doubt. Shellfish proteins showed up in Ellis Quinn's system, and the levels pointed straight at someone doing it on purpose. Mr. Lewis kept pulling out paperwork, one after another. He laid out my text messages to Chef Marcel from 3 days before the dinner. There were my questions about ingredients that could trigger a reaction. My internet search history wasn't helping me either. How much shellfish causes allergic reaction? Can you hide crab oil in soup? Symptoms of severe allergic reaction. Each new piece of evidence hit hard, making the room feel smaller. This was premeditated, Mr. Lewis said. His voice was flat, almost bored. That's not just reckless endangerment anymore. The D.A. wanted aggravated assault with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. With all the planning, I was staring down 8 years in state prison. My parents' faces turned gray. Sloane started shaking her head, desperate, fast. No, that's not. I didn't mean, Mr. Lewis didn't pause. He just shifted his tone, just a notch, like maybe there was a way out. We're willing to settle this civilly, he said. No criminal charges if you pay full compensation, medical bills, pain and suffering, emotional distress, punitive damages. Dad finally found his voice. How much? Mr. Lewis looked at me. I nodded, just barely. $900,000. The number just hung there. Nobody moved. Sloane's mask cracked. That's insane. I don't have that kind of money. Nobody our age does, Mr. Lewis rattled off her assets without blinking. You have a 2-bedroom in Riverside Heights, around $400,000. Jewelry. A car. Investments. Your parents have retirement funds and home equity. He leaned in. Otherwise, it's prison, a record, and debts that'll chase you for years. This deal ends it. You sign, you get to keep your freedom and whatever dignity you've got left. Mom clapped a hand over her mouth. Dad stared at the wood grain, like he could find a solution if he looked hard enough. Sloane looked at me, really looked, like maybe this was the first time she'd ever seen me at all. She saw it, the old me was gone. I wasn't her little sister anymore. I wasn't the girl who swallowed every insult or shrank so she could shine. I was someone who'd almost died, and now just surviving wasn't enough. I wanted payback. I wanted her to feel what she'd done to me. You can't do this, she whispered. I held her gaze. I can. And I was. My parents looked at me, and for the first time in my life, their eyes didn't hold love or even disappointment. Just fear. And underneath that, something darker. The kind of hate you save for someone who's broken the rules, who refuses to play along. I looked away. Their opinion didn't mean anything anymore. It took 45 minutes. Dad argued, Mom cried, Sloane swung between anger and begging. In the end, it was simple. $900,000 or 8 years in prison. They signed. I watched Sloane's hand shake as she signed, her careful signature, the one that probably closed 1,000 PR deals, now tying her to ruin. My parents signed, too, giving up their retirement to save her. The deal was done. Full payment in 90 days, first installment due in 2 weeks. Sloane looked at me one last time. Her voice was empty. I'm your sister. I stood up, grabbed my coat. You were someone who tried to kill me. That's not the same. I walked out of that beige room, out of the building, into clean afternoon sunlight that felt like forgiveness. Behind me, my mother sobbed. My father spat my name like it tasted bad. I didn't look back. Not much time passed before a friend told me Sloane lost her job. The PR firm let her go quietly, but everyone knew why. Word moved fast, especially about someone like Sloane. The whisper stuck, unstable, a risk, that girl who poisoned her sister. She sold her Riverside Heights apartment for less than it was worth, just to get cash. The jewelry gone. The car was leased, so that went back. My parents emptied their pension and took out a second mortgage. The first payment went through. Then the second. Every piece of Sloane's life was built on grinding other people down. I didn't even hear about the engagement party until months later from that same colleague who always seemed to know too much. One of Sloane's old high school friends threw it, a woman who didn't work in PR and hadn't heard any of the stories. Sloane showed up in a borrowed dress, all desperation tucked behind that flawless, practiced smile. She latched onto him at the cocktail hour. Richard something. Old money. Divorced. The kind of man who wanted someone to laugh at his jokes, and Sloane, she could always tell what people wanted. She could become it completely. That's her real talent. For 2 months, she played the part. Let him wine and dine her, moved into his penthouse in the financial district, started posting those carefully staged photos online. Look at me. I'm back. I'm fine. Better than ever. Except, you can't pretend forever. Sooner or later, the mask slips. He caught her lying. Something dumb, like where she'd gone to college or maybe what job she'd had before. One lie led to another and then another. Pretty soon, Richard did what anyone would. He started digging. He found the truth. Not the glossy version Sloane tried to sell, but the real story. Poisoned her own sister. Sued into oblivion. The kind of person who'd step on anyone just to claw her way back up. He kicked her out. No drama. Just cold, efficient, like getting rid of a security risk. Had his assistant pack her things, left them in the lobby, changed the locks. That's it. Done. Last I heard, Sloane was working for a telemarketing company out by the strip mall. 40 hours a week in a windowless room under buzzing fluorescent lights, reading scripts to people who hung up after 3 seconds, making $12 an hour. Sometimes I wondered if she ever thought about that dinner party. If she lay awake at night in whatever shabby apartment she could afford, replaying the moment she decided hurting me was worth it. I hope so. A year after the night I almost died, I stood in my own library. My library. Even after months, it still felt unreal to say. The place was a converted warehouse in the arts district, all exposed brick and huge windows pouring in sunlight. The air smelled like old paper and lemon oil, the scent of preserved history. Custom shelves lined the walls, packed with books, in every stage of restoration. Some looked brand new, waiting for me to catalog them. Others were mid-surgery, spines separated, pages flattened under weights, acid damage being reversed with delicate solutions. This was my company, Coal Conservation and Restoration. For a while, I almost changed my last name, tried to cut that final tie to my family. Mr. Lewis talked me out of it. Own it, he said. You're not the one who should be ashamed. The settlement money started it all. 900 grand, minus legal fees, minus medical bills, minus therapy I needed to even begin understanding what my own sister had done. What was left let me lease the space, buy equipment, hire 2 junior conservators, and get my name out there. Turns out, nearly dying makes you kind of a legend in certain circles. The book conservator who survived an attempted murder and built something out of it. Morbid, maybe, but people remembered me. They hired me. Then Victor Langford showed up. A month after mediation, he came to my tiny apartment with a contract in hand and a library's worth of heritage. 400 years of Thorne family documents, first editions, personal letters. I want you to preserve them, he said. I asked him why. Why trust me with something that valuable? He just shrugged. Some things are worth saving, and some things need to be cut out, like cancer. You know the difference. That contract alone was $200,000 a year for 5 years. It put my name on the map, brought in more clients with deep pockets, let me grow faster than I'd ever imagined. Now, a year later, my company was worth $5 million. I wandered through the library, brushing my fingertips along the spines, leather, cloth, vellum. Each book its own universe, a little piece of someone's mind, someone's world. Some arrived here already damaged, water stains, mold, pages half-eaten by time and neglect. But here, at least, they had a chance. I fixed them one by one, steady hands, steady mind. Sometimes I could reverse the damage, sometimes I just stabilized what was left. And yeah, sometimes I had to admit defeat and let a piece go. That was the hardest part, but also kind of freeing. The work was quiet, almost meditative, just me, alone with the task. It fit me. Someone who knew not everything could be fixed. That sometimes, the best thing you could do was lock away what poisoned you and start fresh. In the back room, Emily and David, my junior conservators, were working on a stack of 18th century letters. I caught Emily's soft humming, the crinkle of tissue paper, the calm focus of people who genuinely loved their craft. I'd built this place from scratch. No family money, no handouts. Just the payout I got after someone almost killed me. Every shelf, every tool, every painstakingly restored page proved I'd taken the worst thing in my life and turned it into something good. My phone buzzed. Mr. Lewis. Final payment cleared. Case closed. The last installment, Sloane's debt, or really my parents' debt for Sloane, was finally gone. I stared at the message, waiting for something relief, maybe triumph. Nothing came, just a quiet kind of emptiness. I drifted to the window and watched the city. Somewhere out there, Sloane was probably stuck in a telemarketing job, reading scripts, getting hung up on. My parents were probably sitting in their mortgaged house, blaming me, telling each other I'd made things worse, that family was supposed to forgive. They were wrong, but I didn't care anymore. Their voices felt like background noise from a place I no longer lived, a country I'd left behind. I turned back to my library, to the restoration table where a 16th century manuscript waited. The pages were fragile, edges dark with age, but the words still held on. Still worth saving. I pulled on my cotton gloves, picked up my tools, sharp, precise, like a surgeon. This was my work now. I saved what mattered. I got rid of what was harmful, whether it was acid on old paper or just toxic family ties. I opened the manuscript, started to map out what needed fixing. The afternoon sun came in at an angle, lighting up dust motes drifting like tiny gold flecks. My life felt solid now. Bright. Built on the ruins of the sister who tried to kill me. And for the first time in 26 years, I was exactly where I belonged.